that's really what's made this possible.
I'm good.
How are you, man?
Hi, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. You're watching WGAN-TV, or just the beginning of our tech setup. The program is going to begin at 11 a.m. this morning. That's about 20 minutes from now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just plan to fast forward about 20 minutes and you'll catch the program. We'll also have a host in the We Get Around Network Forum, a discussion about today's topic. So thanks for joining in.
So I've got this, but I didn't want the first slide to be, yeah, oh, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, this is just like your existing. This is my existing guy, so I just. So I'm going to pull the HDMI for a second. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So basically, remember the phone call? Yeah. So take over. I thought this is what Jeffy said. Yeah. And the research is pretty clear. This is and even though if you look at Pricewaterhouse's research, growth, that's essentially inflation. And it's the growth. How are you? Good. How are you? Very good. And that growth is this. So, if you look at our box office, this is which companies are also, no, this is people's stuff. If you look at our it's awesome. But if you look at the actual attendance, just a water fountain, water cycle. So, what's the word the other side? This is the real one.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Dan.
Dan, I'm Jeannie.
Jeannie, nice to meet you. And you're with?
I'm with Sell Your TV Concept Now.
Say that slowly.
Sell, S-E-L-L.
Okay.
Your TV Concept Now.
Ah, what's that?
So that's my company, and I work with people who have an idea for a TV show to develop it, put their pitch package together, and then to pitch it. And then I meet them at conferences all over the world and arrange pitch meetings for them.
Huh.
Yeah.
Would this be for like commercial networks and
Yes.
cable and
OTT, Netflix, Amazon.
Yeah. Here's my TV channel. I have a TV channel.
You do?
I do live programming.
That's cool. What kind of programming do you have?
Well, this is where we're getting ready just to go live over here. So I'm the founder of a community, We Get Around Network. It's 10,000 3D VR 360 street view photographers around the globe. So that's the forum piece of it. So there's posts and discussions going on. And then within the last month, we started live programming. So we use the Zoom platform. Are you familiar with that at all?
Not really.
Like a WebEx or something. So it lets us have do video chats virtually simultaneous people. So, for example, I had a panel of 7 experts on Google Street View, all discussing their wish list of what they would like Google to do.
Right.
From Zoom, it live streams to YouTube. And from YouTube, we embed the player in the forum. And now we have live television.
So you had 7 people. Were they in different locations?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
One in Scandinavia, Washington D.C., Canada, Texas, all over the
Oh,
place.
that's cool, yeah.
So it's a virtual TV studio.
Right.
So we can bring people into the virtual studio to do our chat. And then because of this feature that lets you stream to YouTube, embed the player into the forum, and then this will go live here.
That's cool.
So we're not network or cable worthy. It's a tight, small community, but for what we do, a geeky guy like me can get on and yak for an hour and find it interesting.
So how would somebody find you?
Well, they find us because of the We Get Around Network forum. So we get about 1 million page views annually, and so because everyone is constantly asking questions, giving help, getting help, that is creating a ton of content on topics in our space. So if you were in this space, there are certain words that you would use to do a search.
Exactly, and then it would come up on their search.
Yes. Come up on probably on a deep link where somebody has a very specific question that they're asking. So we have more than 40,000 posts on 5,000 topics. We're growing at about 100 new members monthly. So essentially the SEO is from the forum members constantly giving and getting help.
Exactly, right. Yeah, so I get that. Now the words are getting big.
Yeah, so while you could go to our YouTube channel and you could find the feed, that would be the challenge of distribution. In this case, I sort of have a built-in distribution because I already have the established community. So we're already promoting tomorrow's show, New Realities, AR, VR, and MR, which will be live at 4:30 Eastern Time.
And is that from this conference?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, is the please stand by for this one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's 10:46 right now. I just hit one button. This is already connected and we'll be live. I love the color bars. What can I tell you? I just think
it's a throwback.
it looks like we real, right? Because we have color bars. Right?
That's right. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So my previous life was in television and entertainment and a promotion agency, 25 people working on CNC, Nickelodeon,
Yeah, that's right.
So you live here in Atlanta? You live in the city here?
Yeah.
I live in Orlando now, and then we're going to move here next summer.
And is the gig that you described full time for you?
Well, it's kind of what I want it to be. Sometimes I scale it back because I also do freelance work. So if a writing gig comes up, or I get hired to, like some people, they just hire me to write their entire treatment or their script. So then I can scale back.
What was your previous life?
I'm a producer and a writer.
Yeah.
So my husband and I, we moved to Orlando to open up the Nickelodeon studios. So I produced
At Universal. Yeah. So that would have been like what, 25 years ago or so.
So that was in the 90s.
So what you'll love is that I acted as agent to bring a number of TV shows down to Universal. So
Really?
TV show Pictionary. And the TV show Studs. So we take you remember the show
I
Studs?
don't remember.
Two guys go out on dates with the same three girls and compare notes of who the bigger stud is.
Oh.
Something like that.
Right.
Anyway, so probably all the people that you worked with at Universal, gosh, because they were all there a long time. So there was a woman on the production side was there forever. And then the Universal.
Pam?
Pam, yeah.
She's still
She's
there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
She's still there. Yep. Because remember it was Paul Mina?
Oh yeah.
You remember?
Oh yeah.
Well, he left Universal. Years ago.
Yeah.
And then Pam took his
position.
place.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's back in production over there now.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Paul Mina.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's.
Well, he has a
small world.
production company, right?
No, he's working for Universal.
He was doing sales for, I want to say, some kind of set design.
He was doing FX set design, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, now, Paul is kind of like my go-to on the production side. I think we flew in 100 people. We had talent, and it was, and we did stuff with Nickelodeon, but we didn't do it at there. So the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards.
Oh, yeah.
We would fly 125 people, kids and their parents, to the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards as prize winners.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
we never flew them to Universal for Nickelodeon Studios, but I
Really did it there the first few years in the early 90s. Kids' Choice moved, I think, to LA after that.
yeah, this was always to Los Angeles. We did that maybe
Yeah.
7 or 8 times or whatever.
Yeah.
The best part is I would find like one of the kids who maybe was like 8, and we would be on the orange carpet, I guess.
Yes, sure.
Right. 'Cause
Right.
you know, you're going to win a trip to attend the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. You'll go to the Nickelodeon Animation Studios. I forget what it's called, and you'll be on the orange carpet. Well, I wouldn't know pink unless she was wearing her hair pink or whatever. Right? But that 8-year-old who would know everyone was so excited that someone was interested in hearing her do commentary who's coming down the orange carpet.
Yeah. That's cute. Yeah.
So that was a big project, opening up the
Oh,
Nickelodeon.
yeah. That was really fun. It was really fun to be there.
I mean, literally, the cement was curing when we were setting up.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
brand
yeah.
new.
If you were working with Pam and Paul, and like everybody was just like positive energy. It was a wonderful, like nothing, everything just happened.
Yeah.
And
It was
then
a great
and
environment.
when we brought in the TV show Pictionary, and I think we taped 2 weeks. So what Universal was looking for was all the production values, all the bumpers, all the in out, etc. And what we were looking for was to be able to take the show on the road, get all the trips from Universal. So hey, when a trip to Universal Studios started, you go to the Pictionary, you'll meet Pictionary host Alan Thicke, there'll be a private party, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, as you probably know, production in Florida is.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. Really? What happened?
Oh, we have no taxes.
Oh, so
None.
everybody coming to Georgia?
Yeah.
Everything's here. So many people that we worked with, back then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But they left like 10 years ago. Yeah.
I
And
moved to New
now,
York, LA.
well, I came here. And then now we are friends who have companies in LA, production companies, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're moving here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this seems to be very stable in terms of the taxes.
That's
I don't
what
think what happened in North Carolina, I don't think it's going to happen here, because everyone seems to be huge boosters of it on all fronts. I don't think there's anybody in any way that's really any opposition to why should this vertical get a tax break when another vertical.
Right, and we had a lot of that. There was a lot of static about that. Why are we giving all this money?
Right. Well, and the Koch brothers work against us, but they're invested in Pinewood, so we
Right.
don't have that problem here.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's pretty solid here.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems.
Oh, it's growing. I mean, he'll probably talk about there's a shortage of sound stations. There's a shortage of people. The reason it's not growing even faster is there's probably no place to put a production. But the number of sound stages that have been announced that will open is phenomenal. And now there's a whole program for teaching. I want to say below the line positions, and now they're just starting to teach above the line kind of positions. So you go to college, and some of the productions, I think part of the deal is they must have interns from the colleges.
Yeah.
Part of the production. So if you're enrolled in that program, you're going to be working on something interesting and exciting.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because there's a school at Pinewood, right? There's a
Film Academy.
film academy.
Yeah. Now I don't know if that's different than. I don't know if it's related, but like there's a college that's not too far from Pinewood that has a whole curriculum, and for whatever reason, there happened to be an aircraft hangar on the edge of campus, which has been converted to a soundstage for this. And so they actually have commercial productions to use their soundstage, and I don't think they even charge them anything for it. But the deal is, everybody.
So the students can.
Yeah, a boatload of students. Let me do a little thing here just to make my show live.
Go down the lobby and have them where everything is in there.
Just take a second.
Load up on some water.
Hey all, I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. We're just minutes away from the program today, Supernova South, here in Atlanta, new media chat, why Georgia is poised to lead the next wave of Hollywood innovation. The fireside chat today, I'm super excited. Pinewood Studios here in Atlanta, Pinewood Studios Atlanta, President Frank Patterson is going to be talking on this topic. Very exciting. If you're just tuning in, we're just about 5 minutes. We just want to do a quick sound check, make sure everything was okay. Very exciting program. I know not everybody is from Atlanta, but if you're in a market that's doing film and TV production or anything related, I think you'll find today's topic exciting. I believe they're going to be talking about new media, so we'll hear about augmented reality and virtual reality meets, perhaps even talking about some of the superhero movies that are all filmed at Pinewood Studios. So thanks for tuning in. Top of the hour program will begin.
Hey, we didn't get a chance to meet. I'm Mark Simon. I'm
Hey,
Jean's
Mark.
husband.
Nice to see you. So you are just getting ready to move here, yeah?
Yeah. So we're getting to know the town, getting to know more people.
Yeah.
So,
What part of the business are you in?
well, I work with her in the pitching, but I also own a storyboarding and animation studio.
Mm-hmm. And storyboarding, I kind of thought like a million years ago was all done by paper. Is it now all completely?
It's done exactly the same, but we draw digitally.
It really is the same, but you just do it.
Yeah, it's actually a lot better because now when we draw, I'm actually drawing on a timeline, so I can create an animatic, real-time video as I'm sketching.
Yeah.
And drop in my stretch track as I'm going, drop in sound effects. So anytime the director says, "Let's see how it looks," I hit play and they can see it literally as I'm sketching.
Are you getting involved at all in augmented reality in order to kind of enable somebody to be within that?
Not as far as in storyboarding, but I've dealt with it a little bit with some other productions that I'm involved in. But storytelling, especially with storyboarding, we're not giving the viewers a choice. We're dictating what they feel and what they think and what they see by choosing every camera angle and everything. So they're two completely different ways of telling stories.
Yeah.
There's a way to develop and design within augmented reality to tell a story, but it is a different beast. In fact, I'm in pre-production on a piece now that we're going to be doing. Alternate piece is an actual short and an augmented reality piece, or at least a VR. I don't know if we're going full AR, but we're doing a VR of the same characters, a separate type of storyline that you can find way through your own way through.
So that would be an interactive program because you're making decisions about
somewhat interactive. There's still a timeline that you go through, but you as the viewer have a choice on which character you want to follow and how you're going to see the action. But the action is still going to be taking place.
Wow.
And we can put action triggers or time triggers for the next element to happen within the storytelling as you're going through it.
So would this be computer based in order to do the experience?
Yes.
So the next thing would be the virtual reality piece, where you could just be in the virtual world depending on which path you took.
Yeah, and it's, hardware dependent right now because there's a number of different platforms on how you want to do it. And a lot of times you can use Google Glass, or not Google Glass, but Google Cardboard. So anyone with their iPhone can go through.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
there's really nice pieces like that. But right now, we're trying to show them more of what everyone has access to, because you get more eyeballs rather than more iron.
Yeah, coming. So it'll be, yeah, that would probably be very exciting to be able to script though for virtual reality, because it would be as close as opposed to using your keyboard to trigger what action you're going to do, but actually just decide what path and walk into that world.
Yeah, pretty neat. Yeah.
So in a previous life, I used to go to NAPI.
Oh yeah, we've gone to there for years.
Yeah, I think when I went, it felt like that was the marketplace where people actually could make decisions. And I think today it's all like a handful of people are making decisions for so many channels. It must be really hard to kind of pitch because the power is in such few hands.
Actually, more hands than ever. There's so many
More
networks.
hands?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
600 networks in the U.S. alone.
Is it that many now?
It's over 2,000 across Europe. So, and that doesn't include OTT.
So that's amazing. So that means there's actually more outlets for you.
Oh, there's more.
For you to pitch. Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I would work on, when I worked on in television, like a TV show, Current Affair, I think we did, I don't know, 11 or 12 at a rating of some sort. And like,
Oh, well, no one's getting that.
Yeah, except
that's what I'm saying, how the world has changed.
Oh,
Like,
if you get a one,
you're happy.
oh,
So,
you're thrilled.
Yeah.
but you know, I think the Current Affair went off the air when it got down to 9.
And that would be a mega hit today.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
So are you
that's
going to be
something.
streaming our session tomorrow?
Which session is yours?
It's how to pitch film and TV.
Wasn't planning to. So our
I'm just curious.
there's a session tomorrow. New realities, AR, VR, and MR. That's at 4:30 tomorrow. What time is your session?
1:30.
1:30. So, this one is even a little bit of a stretch, but I think they're going to be talking about AR and VR. So I wanted to.
Oh, so your blog is specific about AR and VR?
It's a community of 10,000 3D, VR, 360 Google Street View photographers, and all the content that we create is viewable in virtual reality. And when we all started this about 3 years ago, there was really just one camera that was capable of doing what it is that we all do. Today, there's about 70. So this is a little bit on the peripheral, but it's of interest that we'll stream it. You know, it's not like we show up with a production truck and 100 people, you know, like,
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is a 360 camera. This is an ION 360U. This camera comes out in time for Christmas, but it's not out yet.
360, is that using?
It's got 2 fisheye lenses.
Okay.
And it's got 2 parts to it. A case, it's wrapped around my iPhone 8 Plus, and then that little piece snaps into place. And then you can do 3 things with it. Take a 360 photo, a 360 video, or stream live. Now, I have an early version of it, and the software is not so stable. I had hoped to do 360 live streams, but I wasn't happy with the connectivity on it.
Right.
I'm sure it's not it's just
So
the
I
fact that
shouldn't
it's
be
an
picking
early.
my nose during this, is what you're telling me.
Well, I'm gonna record 360 video because I don't have any problem recording the video. So
Yeah,
it
but
depends
it'll
whether
still be seen.
depends
if I'm-
whether
yeah.
depends on whether you want to be seen or not.
Yeah.
Doing that. Jennifer,
Jeannie.
Jean, are you going to stop your husband from doing that on camera?
Absolutely not.
He lets me be a fool
He
all the
can
time.
do whatever he wants. I let him wear this shirt, and you should see the pants he'll be wearing tomorrow.
So here's the live stream just with this camera. So we're live. I just did a little stand up to let people know if they were tuning in. Program starts a little late. I think I'll actually start this because they're going to start any second. And then I'm getting a new 360 camera in hopefully by Thursday, so I can use it on Friday. It's called an ION, no, it's called a Insta360 and this camera that sells for $300 probably is a replacement for $2,300 in camera gear and some training. In a time span of three years. The camera I'm really excited about. I don't have a reason to buy it, but
You'll come up with one.
as soon as I have the first opportunity to use it, it's $3,500. So it's about like this big, and it will do 8K video, but it will do professional quality video streaming. So what cost about $60,000 2 years ago is now $3,500.
Right.
It's really remarkable.
So good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Welcome, welcome. My name is Jennifer Long. I am the co-host of Momish Radio Podcast and host of VO Talent, and I have the absolute pleasure. Today, we're talking with two amazing innovators who are really leading the charge as it relates to Georgia and this state being poised to actually lead the next wave of Hollywood innovation. So allow me to introduce to you Frank Patterson, who is the president of Pinewood Atlanta Studios. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you.
And Chad Eichhoff, who's the founder of Trick 3D Studios. Welcome, Chad. As I mentioned, Georgia is now #1 in feature film production in the world, according to Film LA Report, best in California, the UK, and also New York. And simultaneously, Hollywood and the business of making movies and TV shows is fast changing. As we know, traditional content and formats and the means of consumption are quickly shifting. So with healthy, fast-growing production and media ecosystems in and around the state, Georgia is really poised to become one of the new hubs for new media and technology and startup activity. And so today we're going to dive deep into this. And so I'd like to start with Frank, if you wouldn't mind sort of giving us a framework of what we're seeing in terms of this shift.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Morning.
Morning.
I'm going to just give a quick overview to try to sort of lay some framework, some ground on what's happening. And there are a lot of people who've talked about this, so I'll try to make it quick. I'll give you what I think is my version of it. Did anybody here read last week the Vanity Fair article, Why Hollywood as We Know It Is Already Over? Okay, check it out. I was accused of writing that one. Yeah, exactly. Just check it out. It'll give you another version of what I'm about to say. So the next wave of Hollywood innovation is an interesting tagline, right? I, as a little bit of background, have spent most of my career in the Hollywood environment. And a few years ago, I kind of took a break. There's a friend of mine in finance said, smart money left Hollywood a few years ago. Where did it go? Well, I started a company in the Valley in the San Francisco area, and kind of got out of the movie business, but was related to the entertainment business and learned a lot about kind of where money's going this chart together just this year, and he looks at the companies that are in the media space. Who are the companies that are making the content that we're consuming? And the black line, everything above the black line on that chart are the platforms: Apple, Google, Amazon, Facebook. And everyone below the black line are the studios. And this chart just represents actual capital, market cap, or the wealth of a company. So ask yourself who the wealthiest players are on the block that are producing content, right? Well, this represents, for our youngsters in the audience, a fundamental shift in the power and the economics of the movie business. Where it's coming from, how it's being created even, this represents a profound change. And we move from, this is a graph that was created by Jason Hirschhorn and Matt Ball. And Matt Ball is the head of strategy for Amazon. And this is the way he illustrates it. We grew up, most of us grew up in this kind of constrained distribution system where we have a lot of creatives there's always been many more creatives than we've had media that people can see. So there's a lot more creatives than we've been able to take advantage of. And, but in this constrained system, it cost a lot of money to get a product into the system. And so production companies were limited by just the cost of getting a product into the system. Then there were a limited number of networks and even a smaller number of distributors going on a very small number of screens. And this kind of constrained system meant that we created product for a very narrow group of audience members. When I realized the show that I grew up on, which nobody in this room is old enough, there's some of you that are old enough to remember, there was a show called Leave It to Beaver on television, right? When I realized that two Hungarian men, Jewish men from Hungary, are the ones that created that content, that created my version of the world that I grew up in, I realized that I was a target audience, right? And much of sort of middle class white America was the target audience for all of this content. And that was the constrained system. And so as a result, creatives kind of looked a certain way, had certain points of view, all the way through to the end, to the content. And what has happened with this change, where platforms are now reaching audience members in a way that the best content companies in the world couldn't. I'm gonna back up for a second. When Mr. Disney created, if you go online and you look at his business model, there's a chart from 1957 where he kind of laid out his whole business model, where he would say, I'm going to use parks and use toys and clothes and movies, and I'm going to build a relationship with the consumer that's going to be deep and meaningful. And I'm going to create revenue from these different sources, a kind of flywheel of revenue opportunities. And we're going to build it based on having a good relationship with the consumer. The consumer is going to know who we are and what we stand for, and we're going to interact with them in many different ways. And that model was the best model and worked all the way up till just recently. It's the best model in the world because we all have this relationship as consumers with Disney. In the interim, and in the last 3, 4, 5 years, while that model was working, another model came behind and overcame it all. Think of a company that has a deeper relationship with us, everyday relationship with us, than Disney. Well, it turns out there's a number of them, right? Amazon, Facebook, Google, they have a much deeper relationship with us. Mr. Disney's goal of having a deep relationship with the consumer, a trusted relationship, right, has now been outrun by these platforms. And they've made the commitment recently to use content as a means to connect with us, because content has always connected with us as humans. So if they, through their social media devices and platforms, they've been able to build a relationship with us, they can make a deep and more meaningful relationship with us if and when they get into content. Amazon's already done it, right? Apple's moving into the game. And for a long time, my friends in the movie business would say, yeah, but what we do is special. And it's going to take them a long time to figure out how to do what we do. And I think the answer was obvious, right? They'll just hire us. And that's what they did. And so Apple's like, oh, we'll just hire you. You're really good at this. Do you want twice the money and I'll give you all the freedom you want? Yes, okay, great, you're in. And that's what happened. And that's what's happening now. And so as a result, we're moving from this constrained pipeline to what Matt and Jason refer to as an unbound pipeline, where you have creatives now that can create content and skip through these kind of traditional workflows, these traditional value creation pipelines, and go right to a distributor, or go right to a device, or go right to the audience member directly. And the audience members now, and our youngsters in the audience, are used to this. They're used to communicating with content creators, right? And it's very common on Twitter to get a response from Seth Rogen, or to get a response from whoever you want, right? And so you're used to, as youngsters, you're used to having this cyclical relationship with content creators, and content creators are creating value by having that relationship with you. And this unbound system now is kind of creating a monetary mess. It's also creating an incredible opportunity for creators, for young creators. It's creating an opportunity that never existed before in the history of content, in my opinion. I'm also a faculty member at Florida State University. I had the pleasure of my students won the Academy Award this year for Best Picture. Barry Jenkins and Dale Romansky and Joy, and the editor, Joy and Nate, and James, the cinematographer. Great team, right? They realize that there's never been a better time in the history of the industry to be a content maker. As Barry said to a couple students, to our group of students a couple months ago, stop thinking you need to go where the film industry is. We're at a time where it's now coming to you. And what a great city to be in, Atlanta, Georgia, if you're a content maker. An internationally recognized, business-friendly, innovation-centric city that has an enormous amount of wealth associated with industry, and has a very compelling need to use media and storytelling to create value. Said to another way, to our youngsters in the audience, if you're a storyteller, the future looks very bright in Atlanta. That's the overview.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Yes. So with that, because I grew up in a very similar scenario where it was two screens. It was the TV screen and the movie screen, and now there are obviously, as you've described, multiple platforms, and also different ways that we're consuming, but also different ways that we're producing and also creating. And so as a producer and sort of creator in that space, can you tell us how that is impacting how those stories are told and produced?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have every detail within that, but I can say that creativity.
If you're doing some really cool stuff.
I like to play with cool toys. So we have some cool toys. I like to tell cool stories. We get to do that. So we're going to take advantage of all the stuff that Frank has unearthed. So thank you for the secret treasure map.
Right.
The X marks the spot right here in Atlanta. Yeah, so I grew up creative, always wanted to create things. I love drawing, I love making things, wanted to create animated movies. And what most of these tools to a creative mean is you have access to the secret of creativity much faster, which is iteration. You have to have access to do things over and over and make mistakes and feel free doing that. And there are a lot of things that try and stop you from being creative that way. It could have been the business model that says, look, you're never going to get the money, you're never going to make it, so you might as well go be a lawyer. It's that, sort of the dynamic we grew up in, which was you don't go into creatives to make money. That's it. Like that's, and then the access to the tools themselves are difficult. So I think that is a big value to anybody who's a storyteller now. That's one byproduct. The other, though, is the quality of the content, and it's not necessarily a good story right now. There's what this creates is direct access to distribution, and it also creates a little bit of what is groupthink, which is generally drives towards lowest common denominator. And so, yeah, there's a lot of noise. It doesn't mean there's not great stuff out there, but we're in the point now where everyone's realizing that, and part of that is saying, okay, now that I have all these tools, I'm learning how to speak the language and to be creative within it, starting to find what is the new norm and how you tell that story. And I think there's a bridge in the technology of beyond, there's a lot of trying to apply traditional filmmaking devices and means to smaller phones. So there's all these adapters that people get with lenses and these big like Steadicam rigs, and you're like, I just watched a YouTube video comparing an Arri Alexa camera to an iPhone 8. And I mean, it is nuanced. They're like, see how much more beautiful it is? It's a little
It's all
fuzzy.
beautiful. It's
And
like,
he was like, I've got this,
Yeah.
or I've got like this giant rig that requires 7 people to operate it. I think I know which one I'll go with.
yeah, exactly.
And so there's, the access to the tools gives access to quicker exploration of the creativity. So I think that will be interesting if you look at the types of content that these platforms are pouring money into. While that shift is starting to happen, Apple, I think, is trying to be real thoughtful about it, and hiring the right people and kind of placing the right steps. Someone like Facebook is like, just give it to the people and see what happens. And so they put a lot of sort of smaller funding out there.
And Netflix is committing, what, $7 billion this year? And the content, they literally do not have, there are not enough visual effects artists, literally, on the planet working to meet the pipeline requirements, the workflow requirements of the visual effects of just their content alone.
Wow.
So it's not even, I mean, if you're just doing your business, you're trying to watch it, just capacity. There's not enough capacity.
That's this final answer to your question on the production is, as this whole new wave of learning new ways to tell stories and new ways to be creative, they're going to solve that problem. We play in that space right now, which is how do we take technology and create an efficient pipeline for content creation. I've worked in both live action, but also animation. And CG animation, Disney's original view of how he set it up, is actually still leading the way in how something is created. So while the distribution finance is all shifting, they're all still making it the same way currently. Like Amazon's still trying to make a movie the same way. Netflix is still spending the same amount of dollars to make their TV shows. And so they are going to run into a wall that says, how do we do this more efficiently? How do we create more content on a high quality level that's not just churn and burn content?
And that's literally the question you're struggling with right now.
Yep.
How do we do this? We need quality content. We need a lot of it.
Yep.
It's to choose,
Yeah, and you run into the issue of CG animation has sort of set the pipeline for now live action is incorporated the storyboarding, the pre-visualization, where the whole thing, the editing, all moves to the front end. And that's happening in live action and computer animation now.
Yeah.
And it used to be that live action would go shoot a bunch of stuff and then do a lot of post. And now post is sort of
you and I've talked about this a lot, this sort of like removing the linear nature of production.
Absolutely.
How can you create in a non-linear way?
Yeah.
Right. And Chad's been doing so much work in this space, and that's really what new emerging technologies like virtual reality cause you to think about its applications, but also gives you some freedom to think about the current technologies in a new way. And I know you've been thinking about the non-linear way to produce for years now.
Yeah, I think it's an overlap, and it's just a mode of trying to get to the story in the most creative, like frictionless way. And it's really just being in it, right? So I love to create virtual worlds. That's what we do. We create virtual environments. And by approaching that, movies have moved to very world-based. That's where like we're finding value in a world that we can escape into. Directors love to get in that world and get immersed in it as much as possible. So the more you can create a frictionless way to get in there and make decisions quickly, then you're going to find some efficiencies there. So there's a lot of tools from in virtual reality in particular that help with that. But the net byproduct that's interesting to me is that in doing that and creating the system that works to create efficient content, the world we're stepping into now requires digital assets for you to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's true for entertainment, and it's also true for enterprise. So it's where these worlds have lived very separately.
But let's break that down for everybody a little bit,
Yeah.
because you and I are going to geek out. And
Yeah,
we'll
let's
do
do it.
people here quick. These assets that Chad's talking about, literally physically three-dimensional objects that are computer objects, like models of the chairs you're sitting in, of the room, of that projector, of everything. There are companies that pre-visualize, as everyone knows, in our studio, we've had some Marvel films from out of our studios. Every one of those scenes, almost every one of those scenes, are pre-visualized in great detail by companies that create these three-dimensional CG assets, right? And now there are libraries of these CG assets, or models, or whatever you want, objects that can be in a virtual world, that now make your life so much easier, right? You can just, any filmmaker's life, they can go into a world and throw together a room and
Yeah, that's what drew George Lucas into it, because it's the combination of IP and it's the combination of creative control that you just always have access to. And so, so yeah, there's no doubt those digital assets and libraries are becoming more, they're already extremely meaningful, but the understanding of the meaning of them is new. And to break that down a little bit, take something like a digital Millennium Falcon that would exist for a Star Wars movie. That currently, or at least previously, would be built multiple times by multiple visual effects houses, and then you would have a previous house that would have some version of it, then you have ILM who would have a version of it, then you would have a license to a gaming company, and that gaming company would create some version of it. And there's not really, the closest to a master would be ILM, but they're not going to share it with anyone because of the IP rights. And so the need for that to be centralized and the power of that is the forefront for both entertainment, but now because VR and AR are going to be a platform for shopping, IKEA just...
Did you read the announcement of IKEA last week? Did y'all read the announcement of IKEA last week? Okay, Google it if you have it. But IKEA now has, look, they're planning on you being able to look at a room through your iPhone in the AR for you to choose their furniture in your house. How does it work? Well, we see that chair. Oh yeah, chair look good in that chair.
Well, and
right. I mean, it's literally in real time and interactive, right?
And the beauty of it, IKEA saw it 6 years ago, and they have been fooling us for a long time. And this is where Trick 3D, it's where our name comes from. We like to do it with brands too. Is they've been showing at least 75 to 85% of their catalog as 3D renderings for the past 5 years.
And you just
nobody knew. So that's just how good graphics are now. And then now the democratization of it is going to allow you to start pushing that into ways that you can interact with those objects. So for that to happen, you need that digital asset. So all companies who currently work in photo and video are all of a sudden going to become companies that have to manage 3D assets. What industry knows how to manage 3D assets? Hello. So it becomes not just a story for entertainment, it's a story for all business.
And growing off of that, we're in the middle of something we'll be able to announce here in the next couple of months. But we're working with one of the pre-visualization companies that does these very big movies. And the CEO of that company is very excited by the idea that they have libraries of all these assets because they need to be able to very quickly build whatever the director wants. It's in a desert, and we're going to have a Range Rover. It's like, okay, boom, boom, boom. And is this what you're talking about? And where's the camera, right? So they have these extensive libraries of assets. And Chris's dream, this person's dream, whose company will remain nameless until we can talk about this. We love his dream because he wants to bring this all the way down to the student filmmaker. Let's make that library and all those assets available to young filmmakers now. Let's give that virtualization and those tools, and let's make them available to our young storytellers, because our young storytellers will do stuff with it we hadn't imagined, right? And so you're talking about companies that are working at the very highest levels of film production, that are making tools that are will be seamless for the very beginning levels of production. And for me, that's about as exciting as it gets.
And that, Jenna, just to wrap that one, will create the pipeline that is creating higher level content,
right?
Feeding those new distribution
You
models.
don't need to give up on quality.
Correct, because the quality models, quality tools, and how you interact with stage shots within that will all become very accessible. And that's happening right now. The director of District 9, Neil Neil Blom. You know his last name?
Neil,
Blom.
Something.
Blom.
I don't know how to pronounce it either.
There you go. Blom and something, blah, blah. I'm sorry, Neil. I'm sure you're watching this. He's doing that right now, taking his actual high-res assets and making them open source for other people to go and just take and make their own films in CG World. And I think that's a baby step in the realm of like when everyone starts to do that, then all of a sudden you have one. Thank you. There you go.
Look it up.
Let
Yeah,
me
so
ask
there
you
you go.
something though. It's just sort of piggybacking on a comment that you made about bringing it down to even the student level and allowing them to have access to this content. Let's talk about Georgia and the ecosystem that's here. You know, obviously we've got Georgia Tech and we've got SCAD. What opportunity is available? I mean, there's lots of opportunity, but let's talk about what that means for the ecosystem here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, I would generally say, I'll get general to specific, but generally say that those who are young creators in this marketplace have the benefit of being in a city that sees no limitations and that has a history of technology innovation, of valuing higher education and research and creating new industries. And it's also the home of these big brands, you know, from Delta to Home Depot to, I mean, it's I mentioned Coke or Chick-fil-A or any of these other companies, but it is a vibrant business ecosystem that has a history of innovation, right? And a long history of storytelling, and first in the movie business, but now as we're expanding what story means in the digital space. So I would say, to Chad's point earlier, I like the way he talks about it. You know, you want to reduce the friction, right? This is a city where there should be very little friction for you to create content, right? And how you monetize it. I used to be able to give lectures on how you monetize content as a teacher. I don't know, that would take days now because there's so many different new ways popping up that I don't even know how to explain it. I just know this. If you are a youngster who is willing to think critically, speak clearly, write persuasively, read a lot, just think about the world and imagine the possibilities, and you're willing to tell stories of quality, right? You're willing to, I would say, we haven't touched on this, it's to your point though about quality. I argue that storytellers have a profound responsibility in society. We've always held them up to be important people in society. The great storytellers have actually even caused change in the world. So a storyteller in my mind is a great person in society. And the only thing I would say that you have as a challenge is be strong enough to recognize the responsibility and the role you have as a storyteller. Now, if you are going to do the work to look at it and recognize that story has a profound ability in society, how you get that story to the marketplace is so much easier than it's ever been, and start creating content now. And so all that is to say that it's a very vibrant community with a lot of support. You know, when I was growing up in Texas, like, you're gonna do what? You're gonna make a what? Movie. They do that in California. That day's gone. Yeah, that's raising their hand.
Yes, alrighty, yes.
I just wanted to add with Coca-Cola and IBM and WGAN-TV, we should also remember the Center for Puppetry Arts, which is, you know, a big center.
We love the Center for Puppetry Arts.
And the Woodruff Art Center.
Yes.
You know, so,
Yeah, and I was spoken. Good point. We gotta look at the rich art culture that has been around for decades in Atlanta. It's a vibrant culture, and it's always a bit disheartening for me to be in a city. I've been in other cities where there's a rich art culture, but the industry doesn't really get it. You know, this is a city where both exist, and there's actually been I've learned a long history of relationships within the arts community and industry, and that's just a great environment to work in.
Well, I would say there's a layer. Atlanta has all that opportunity. It has some baggage in the sense that those who grew up here and come here still, they tend to believe the hype, that like, oh, I need to go to LA or I need to go to New York. And there's an essence within this new landscape, and where you're absolutely right that Atlanta is an open ground, and part of that is the support of the institutions and the government, but another part is it's just the barrier to entry. There's most of those barriers to entry that are all gone now, people still have in their head. You still have in your head that you're not a director because you're not directing a Marvel movie. Because you shot on your iPhone, that doesn't count. But it does. So you have to just own it. And there's an element of just saying, I am a director, and knowing that you're going to accept that and just take advantage of the tools that are there. I think there's also a layer of the storytelling that, to your point, it requires, for it to really be effective, a community that is supporting the creative side. And there's an element of Atlanta that loves to have business, and there's to consume. But that belief of creation that says, no, we make it here, that's burgeoning. The last 5 to 10 years has really been like boiling up. I made my first movie here 10 years ago, and there was one other person making a movie in the entire state at the time. There was some support and interest in what we were doing, but you just got to go ask. Like, I was blown away. I went to the film commission's office, and they're like, yeah, I know you don't have money, but we'll help you find locations. We'll help you like figure out how to shut down the street to shoot a film. So, you know, I think there's some element of just accepting it, saying, I'm going to make a thing. I am a director, and as you, or a producer, or just a filmmaker, or an app developer, whatever it is you're going to be, and just own it, and Atlanta will support that.
Let me add on to that. I mean, we've sort of been speaking to the young new filmmakers, right? Like the ability to sort of own it and have an opportunity here. We'll also add comments about just the core, monetization, creation and monetization of content. I forgot how many shows this last year, almost 300 shows were shot here in Atlanta. In the state of Georgia, mostly here in Atlanta. And we are a real player in the content creation production ecosystem. And right now, because of some smart policy by leadership, we've been able to sort of promote that growth through tax incentives and other smart business policies. But I think the real opportunity comes now with transitioning from us being a kind of production center to a whole content ecosystem. And, what's his name? Chris Escobar likes to say that, in Georgia, we make the drivetrain, we make the car, right? We don't really design it and we don't sell it, in the movie, to the equivalent of the movie business, we make the drivetrain. And I like to think of it a little differently. There were people and companies and all kinds of organizations trying to get into the car business for decades. There's been movies made about it. It was a closed system. No one could get into it until someone decided to reimagine the car. And then when they reimagined the car, of course, Elon Musk got in the car business, right? And I think that's where we are right now in content. We're able to now, we're at a time where we're reimagining its value and what it is in society and in the business system. And I think we're we have a prime opportunity here in Georgia to reimagine some possibilities that just take us away from providing drivetrain and creating a ecosystem.
It's interesting you say reimagine, because one of the thoughts or questions that I had was sort of this underlying fear of disrupting this industry, and sort of the barriers to innovate. But really, we are doing that. We're essentially just sort of we're reimagining. Any thoughts on that as it relates to some barriers that you see to innovation? And I think, frame of mind is also a barrier. Are there any other things that you see as underlying fears or barriers to this innovation?
I think frame of mind is the first one, because in those other cities, if you move there is a built-in ecosystem that is also putting barriers in front of you that are saying, this is the way you make a movie. So you have to come through this process. And here we're not saying that.
Right.
right? If you go to Silicon Valley, they say, this is the way you do a startup. And so, and we've seen successes. So people are like, well, I'm going to do it that way. But that is not the only way for either one of those. And Atlanta is inherently a reforming and open to the new. And because of that, we have all these pieces and they're spread. We've got a leading entertainment ecosystem now. We've got leading enterprise systems. We've got great upstart creative groups. We've got great startup groups, and they're all sort of playing in their own pools. And the idea of pushing those together will break down even more of those barriers to entry, in my opinion.
I'll give you one small indication of that. I was in a meeting with Bud Peterson, the president of Georgia Tech, not long ago, and we were talking about just this very fact. You know, my assumption was the Georgia Tech grads and engineering program, you know, those undergrads, they're going to San Francisco, they're going to New York, they're going, you know, they're leaving Atlanta. And he corrected me and said, this year, I can't remember the exact number, I remember it was over 50%. I want to say it was close to 70%. President Peterson, if you're hearing this, please correct us. But it was shocking when I heard, he said, no, this last class graduated, more than 50% of them are staying here in Atlanta. Well, that's great. That's a great sign. Yes, ma'am.
First off, thank you very much for coming to this. I have lived in Atlanta full time now. This is very good, and I appreciate the way you're articulating what's happening currently in Atlanta.
Thank you.
And the rest of my time in Los Angeles, I'm in your industry. But there has been some changes relative to how audio is handled. So the audio production is still, to some extent, being done out of state. And there is a movement right now governmentally, funnily enough, started by a woman who is the president of the Grammy Board, to really also get some of the same compensation and tax, we'll say, initiatives underway so that the sound piece stays. So we have the video and film production, but sound is going to places like Nashville and Los Angeles and New York. And
are you talking sound of media content, or are you talking music?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. So what's happening is that the music to score, the sound production.
Oh, I
is
see.
done in other cities.
I see.
And I know that there is a movement. I was wondering if you guys have any knowledge of that.
Yes, you know,
an update.
there's a person here who's known as a kind of actor whisperer named Greg. What's the post house that was here? No, the longtime post house in the city. Crawford. Greg Crawford. That's why I was trying to remember his name. Thank you.
He did not own Crawford.
Yeah, I didn't know. He has the same last name.
Yeah.
So Greg is the person in this. Greg, when we bring in very famous people on the most highly recognized movies in the world to shoot in Atlanta, normally all the ADR and the dialogue recovery work is done in Los Angeles or by remote satellite, except in Atlanta, because the actor whisperer, Greg Crawford, who actors love, right? He gets a line like few people in the world do. And the studios know they can trust him. I say that to say that sound tends to be, like a lot of areas in content production, to be very talent driven. They're looking for that producer who they can rely on to produce those tracks with that artist who everybody says is cool, but I don't know if I can trust that they're going to be able to deliver. Will they hit a deadline, and can I make certain my tracks are on the show by the time it's the theater, right? I mean, the scary stuff that happens, right? So they're looking for those producers, and I just went up on the name of there's one here in Atlanta now that's popping up. I want to get his name so I can say it, who has worked with Oprah and others, who is recognized as being able to deliver quality work, and it doesn't have to be in New York, or it doesn't have to be in Nashville, right? Nashville's a great scene for it because people have been delivering sound and music from Nashville for decades, right? So Nashville's leveraging that. I'll say we at Pinewood, in our London facility, we handle all of the foreign language tracks for 4 or 5 of the top games in the world. And we're doing that in London, and we're doing the audio foreign tracks deliveries for, and it's only because we have a trusted reputation, and there are 2 people, and their names are well known in the audio world, and it's a talent play. And all I would argue is that largely in sound, and I know I'm being a bit general, but largely in sound, we trust talent. We trust people who have been doing it for a long time, and we know will deliver either the musicians or the actors, these crazy artist types, right, to deliver quality. And so, I mean, to deliver the product. I would say that what I love about Atlanta, as a newcomer, as an outsider coming in, is it's a place where a lot of these talented people want to live. And I think that kind of ecosystem is going to be just as key, right, to building it, as I think there's a new tax policy that's coming along with the music, right? And I think that'll be helpful too. And to your point, I think we're going to see it grow, but boy, it is hard to not trust your friends in Nashville, right? Because you know they're going to deliver, right? And it's just so hard to break those relationships, and it's challenging.
So let's do this. I'm going to ask you one last question, and then I'd like to open it up to the audience. Frank and Chad, what do you imagine? What do you see? It's a big question.
I thought this was only a 1 hour.
I know.
Secrets. Lots of secrets. Yeah, I just kind of go to the creative. I'm a world person, so I just go to like fantastical, beautiful spaces in my head. So when I close my eyes, that's where I go. Beautiful places.
And maybe I should be more specific, I'm sorry. So as it relates to this innovation and this growth and Georgia being poised to...
I'm an escapist, so you give me that opportunity, I'm out.
I know.
Visualize myself to a beautiful land. I honestly see there's an opportunity, and it does require some cards being played correctly. There's an undefined something. Like people relate to existing industries. And so there's currently lots of names for automotive industry, media industry, movie industry, television industry. There's all these industries, and there's an undefined something that's in this new media landscape that Atlanta has the ingredients for. And Atlanta's in a place right now, if anybody knows how to just brand it and own it, because it's not the Hollywood of the South. It's not like the startup capital of the South. It's not any of those things. It's its own thing. It's Atlanta, and it's finding it. And it's finding it at a time when the world is finding a whole new thing, how this all connects. And so there's a big opportunity to be that thing that no one even knows what to call yet. And there's an opportunity to figure out what to call it, I guess.
So let's go.
I don't want to get too heavy, but you asked the question.
I did,
so,
and I
I'm a little bit of a romantic, so I apologize if that, but I'm genuinely worried, like a lot of us, about our world right now. And I think, something in Vegas yesterday, I had to sit down. So we have a lot of challenges in the world right now. And there's a lot of forces, a lot of drivers at play that I think create the circumstances we're in. And not to mention, by the way, a lot of technology that created the kind of persuasive technologies that created the kind of social media tools that we say are neutral in our lives, but they're not neutral in our lives. They're driving us down to the lowest common denominator of human existence. I didn't mean to be hard on Facebook right now. They're our friends. I shouldn't be harder, but whoever, whatever. So my point is that I don't think all this talk about how Facebook's algorithms drove the election, blah, 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 just uncovering a lot of the challenges that come with these wonderful technologies. And I would say that they have been in control of our lives and our world in a way that's been not even really realized. Everyone in this room believes they're better than an average driver, and nobody in this room believes that social media technology is influencing your daily decisions. You're both wrong. It's influencing 94% of your use on those apps is predictive. So with these predictive technologies that exist and the way that they're controlling our lives, it's a very challenging time. Now here's the good news. That's depressing. I've always found great faith and hope in young people. I think that's why I've been a teacher my whole career. And we have this amazing time where we have an opportunity to leverage the bright youth that we have who recognize now some of these mistakes that we've made in recent years and who have the ability to use their voices and their intelligence and their takes on the world to offer new and fresh ideas that we'll all respond to because we're all hungry for them. And those ideas will take the shape of story, because they always have. Story has always framed our experience for us. And at a time when I think we really need to be challenged about how we see that framework and how we look forward to our daily lives, there hasn't been enough great story out there to influence that. And I'm really excited that these tools that we've been talking about, the changing economy, and the technology opportunities that are before us, are going to create a world where we're going to get some fresh new ideas that we're going to really need, and they're going to help us in the future.
Thank you. So let's open it up to the audience. Any questions? Yes.
So I'm also a content creator, and
I know that about you.
Yes, you do. And most of my career has been spent, and I would say the old model. Okay, and so the double-edged sword between the old, as far as I can tell, from the old model to this new model, where yes, as a content creator, there are many more buyers and there are many more opportunities for me to get my ideas out there. The double-edged sword is there seems like there's less pay for creators. It also seems that your ideas can be taken from you more easily. And I just wanted you guys to speak to that. How, as a creator, how can we make a living and keep getting paid?
I think there is less pay right now, but I think that's what comes with every change, right? So we have a lot of the pipeline that's hanging on to the old models. So I won't mention any names, but I was just in some buyer meetings. And when I listen to them talk about how they're going to monetize our content, I'm thinking, you're not paying attention, are you? But that is what they're hanging on to, because their livelihoods depend on it, right? And so they're in a position where, as you and I were talking about in an elevator, there's just all this downward pressure on certain content because there's no margins, because they can't count on the revenue, because the ad models aren't working, because the social media strategies are failing. Well, guess what? The social media strategies were failing long ago. It just took the agencies a long time to recognize, wow, that $6 billion a year we've been spending on social isn't really giving me anything, right? And the brands now, more than ever, need relationships with the consumers, and they're going to do it through story, but that mechanism doesn't exist. So you as a content creator are seeing pitching content to buyers that are existing in this old system, and you're feeling pressured, and you're right to. It's hard.
Yeah.
So part of this disruption is the creation of the models that allow you to monetize content under the new relationships of brands to consumers. So what Shane did and I'm going up on his name, Spike Jones did with Vice Media was just say, I don't care about any of this. We have a voice. Spike has a sense for what millennials are thinking, feeling, dreaming, speaking, blah, blah, blah. We're going to make content that appeals because Spike has a sense for it. Are you in, brand? Are you in, brand? Are you, well, we don't do models this way. Yeah, okay, well, then you're not in. Are you in? And somebody said, I'll put the first 10 million up, and 50-something million dollars later, you have a lot of content that's being funded with a specific voice that it's destroying the ad model. I have friends that are in the ad business that were in some of those pitches, and they said that'll never make sense. And it didn't make sense. It makes total sense. It doesn't make sense really, but it makes total sense right now, right? You see what I'm saying? So that model, which is new, and by the way, it's not really working right now, and there's lots of change. This is the problem of change, right?
Right.
So you and I don't get to feed our families off of known constructs. We have to sit down, run the risk of creating new constructs. And you're in a great position because you get to create content. You're a content creator. So we're actually in a moment in time where great content, if you'll serialize it, and hang on to your IP and keep pitching it, and build some associations with brands, it'll find its way to monetization.
Yeah, I would tack onto that. There are just so, when I got into filmmaking, I was looking for like how to get into filmmaking, and every story I read was different, and that doesn't change today. But what I sometimes I take the hardest road, so be forewarned. But for me, it's a mental like, who are you trying to convince? Like, there's no reason that you have to go through those distributors, that you have to get a green light from somebody else to make something. And when you make it, every job that you're going to try, you're going to struggle at, and just put it out. The distribution, there's no reason you can't just put it on YouTube. It doesn't even have to be YouTube. You put it on your own web server, and then start trying to do what it takes. It also doesn't have to be huge. Like, so you don't have to go out and get 1 million views on something to be successful. Depends on the content you make. It may make sense to go super old school and like actually go set up some screenings in some college campuses, or in and around film festivals, or set up your own drive-up theater in your neighborhood. Like, whatever it is, there are ways to get people to start believing in your content. I mean, I was blown away. I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they don't watch TV. They watch YouTube. They don't even want to sit in front of the TV. They want to sit in front of the computer because it's easier to navigate than YouTube on Apple TV. And like, this is part of the quality of content discussion I was alluding to earlier, but these two brothers who have like skyrocketed to the top of YouTube somehow, Logan Paul and Jake Paul, are like their own industries, and they're creating their own merch, and they didn't get a sign off from, I mean, they took advantage of some Disney, but some of their model was creators band together. Like, I'm going to pitch you, you pitch me, we're wearing it on our sleeve, I'm selling you merch, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And they're just like, boom, go do it. And the content's not great, but they built an audience. And so go find the audience that makes sense for your content. And I think there's an opportunity to say, I don't need someone else to say yes.
Yes.
This question is for Frank. It seems like every week there's another announcement about a soundstage being built in Atlanta. Can you speak to Pinewood's plans and sound stages here in Georgia?
Sure. Well, Pinewood offers a very specific product, if you will. So we offer, I guess in the marketplace we call it a premium product, right? With some very specific technology. And it's the kind of technology, our gantry systems and load-bearing walls and all of our stuff are the kind of technology that doesn't exist anywhere in this marketplace. And so we're real good for tentpole features and certain kinds of product like that. And of course that's booming, and we've been very busy. So we've been very fortunate, and of course we're in a very specific, area of the marketplace where a lot of the sound stages offer a broader appeal to the marketplace. And they can, if you have a converted warehouse, for example, you can be a home to a television show, a music video, but you don't have the technology that's required for, the Marvel line producers to put their show there. So in many ways, we're not really in the same marketplace. I will say, though, that we are keenly aware of everything that Jed and I have been talking about. And we recognize that storytellers and content creation, the process of producing that content is changing fast. So we have the good fortune of, resting on an 80-year tradition of pioneering, products for storytellers. The 007 stage in Pinewood was created because we couldn't figure out how to put a submarine on a sound stage. And it's like, well, we could dig a hole. What if we, all these constantly pioneering. And that's what we're doing at Pinewood Atlanta, is pioneering facilities and operational expertise for this next-gen content. And again, that's a little different play than a lot of the sound stages that are happening. With all the sound stages going out, we still don't have enough facility support to meet the demand. So, obviously as the president of Pinewood, I keep my eye closely, keen on competition, but right now I'm in a place where I feel like we need the kind of technology and facility support to keep this ecosystem growing. I'm not really looking at my friends at AMS or my friends at Tyler Perry or my friends at these studios. I mean, these are all friends of mine. And, we're colleagues that meet regularly and talk about how we're going to conquer the world.
Yeah, just kind of following up on that, in general, more general to Atlanta that you guys might know. Do you guys have a tank or plans for a tank?
No, we've been talking to, I shouldn't say this. We're talking to one of my friends at one of the other studios. We have a tank at Pinewood in London, a very famous tank. And, oh, I guess it's okay. I'll maybe get in trouble. But Steve and I have been talking to Tyler Perry about how we could bring up tent to the marketplace, you know, and so if Tyler doesn't do it, we see the value. It's just the problem is that, you know, that's, I'll tell you, the tank we have in London, it is expensive to maintain. When you put people in water, there's all kinds of concerns, safety, health, you know, and it is an expensive. A great tank at Pine, we usually got to go to London to get it.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
You see there being like a competitive or strategic advantage for somebody like a talent who maybe was born in LA, do they have like a strategic or competitive advantage in Hollywood as opposed to somebody moving to LA? You don't see them so.
Never. LA was made off of people coming to LA.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I spent most of my career there. It's interesting when you meet people who grew up there. Oh, wow, you grew up here. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, are you from LA?
I'm not.
Were you feeling maybe a challenge of going to LA?
Well, I'm from Atlanta, and I have a lot of people from Atlanta, so seeing that Hollywood is coming here, if there's any way you can jump in front of that by already being here.
Oh, I see. I missed the point of your question. I apologize. I missed the point of your question.
I probably said it wrong, so I apologize.
Yeah, no. So, look, I think you're the person I've been speaking to all day. You're the person I think about all the time. You're a young person in this marketplace who's probably as passionate and driven to make content. I'd die to be you right now. That's awesome. You have an opportunity that's unlike any time in history, in my opinion. And you have an advantage in that you're from here, which means you know the place, you know people, you have friends, you have a neighborhood, you grew up here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you're you're in a great position. It's going to be hard. You're young, but I think that's the definition of young. It's hard living. But we're going to make stuff we're going to watch. I mean, I'll tell you that to me the greatest story right now of the year was kind of how Donald Glover really nailed. Not only did he take risks as storyteller, but he nailed very specifically a world that I'm sure, you know, great storytellers bring you to places you've never been and they show you something you've never seen. So I'm not from his world, but man, I feel like I've been in his world. And that's because he's a great storyteller. He never saw himself as a director, right? I mean, he just, you know, couldn't tell him that. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Yes.
So going back to this open source asset database thing, how are the creators of these assets persuading these kind of stalwart traditional rights holders to participate in something like that, to give up their rights and these things they create?
You're not like, what do you do with when you build assets? How do you?
Yeah, no, that's a really, like, you drove right to the heart of the matter, this entire new future. I've got ownership of that. And it's going to get even more interesting as soon as these things are just starting to some degree now.
Google and Apple just done the AR, right?
Yeah, so once they upgrade that and they have 3D scanners on their phone and the entire world's being scanned, then who owns those assets becomes a real question mark. So that's part of the reason why they're not rushing into it just yet. But right now we're creating those assets, and so you can define, hey, I created that asset, so I own it, unless I sell it to you. I think that's going to be the uphill battle for, you know, anybody who's working with an old school media company. Like, they're not going to give up the Millennium Falcon. Like, if they do, it's going to be like a, you know, downgraded version of it. On the plus side, the power of people are awesome, man. You can find better versions of the 3D Millennium Falcon, like on like Turbo Squid or
that's
something.
That's what I was going to say is they're the most, in my opinion, the best pipeline builder in the world. And pipeline I'm talking about, there are people that write the software and the code so that the different artists and technologies can talk to each other when you make a movie like Star Wars. So there are these geeks, they're pipeline engineers, and they make all the custom technology that allows all these artists and technologies to talk to each other when you make a movie like a Star Wars or one of them the best pipeline builder in the world, in my opinion, is about to launch an open source pipeline. He's been building so many pipelines in his entire life for Lucas, and they keep doing the same mistakes. He's like, this is the same mistake. Lucas makes the same mistake as Cameron makes the same mistake as well. And he's like, I'm just going to build an open source pipeline. I'm like, dude, that will change the world. He said, oh yeah, no, I think it's going to. And he's about to launch it, and he's doing it at a university. He's doing it at a university, and because universities are supposed to do these kinds of things, right? We're supposed to make the world a better place. So having a pipeline that's open source. Are you familiar with Creative Commons licenses? Okay, having the infrastructure of Creative Commons, right? Having the drive, the market forces of these companies, as Chad's talking about, the IKEAs of the world, the Apples of the world that need to build assets that can be purchased and sold and create an economy. That's a good thing. That just means there'll be a very robust economy around it. That is the Creative Commons open source world that much of our world is driven by, that will give you an opportunity to have access to any asset you want at the end of the day.
Well, and simply, but like some of the big ones, you're not going to be able to get anytime soon. But getting creative, you can find a lot. So all those furniture companies, most of them are making them open source because they want people to buy their actual furniture. They don't care about the model.
Right.
So they're not about like, they don't want to own that. So, you know, in terms of like, all of a sudden set designing, you can pull in furniture from all kinds of different places. And then there are creatives who are doing the same thing and say, hey, I made this thing and I want to share it and want other people to get creative with it. So, you know, you got to kind of look underneath the cushions a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's an exciting time. You're right, some of it will always be, you know.
They may eventually do some scenario, but they'll probably want to own the platform you're in that's taking advantage of it.
Thank you. Are there any other, I think I saw one more. Yes.
In the shift of power, is there, I guess, any professional or industrial people who stand to benefit from this beyond the creators and engineers and designers, but anybody on the professional level and, or, you know, the ancillary part of making things come to life? Is there anybody who stands to benefit more, and also who loses power?
That's a huge question. But I'll just say this. When our free market society works at its best, right? You know, capital goes where it's treated best, and innovation comes from, it needs innovative people who create innovative things. And power always shifts in the process. I think with the shift that we're seeing, where if the Vanity Fair article is right, you know, Hollywood lost and they didn't even know it, San Francisco won. Clearly, you know, a lot of the names of the companies have benefited from that deal, right? And you can imagine that a lot of capital was made, a lot of money has been made, and a lot more money needs to be made. They're just happen to be making it off the creativity of a lot of us. And for the first time, maybe in 30 or 40, 50, well, maybe since the beginning of the movie business, I don't know, I have to think about that. We're in a position to collaborate with them and create opportunity that's never existed before. There's a downside and a dark side to every innovation, right? But when our country works at its best, and I'm not being idealistic right now, but you know, is when we see innovation pops up in a way that really allows opportunity for a lot of people. And I think that's happening.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, Frank and Chad, and let's give them a round of applause.